real estate company brought out an information that was widely published. The Punch newspaper brought it out, saying over 60% of Nigeria's property listings are inaccurate. So for me, definitely I felt bad. The Punch newspaper brought it out. 90% of what I do is real estate brokerage. Prof, even during his own presentation, he spoke about 170-something real estate communities and estates that have been listed and earmarked for demolition without the right approvals. Ladies and gentlemen, in this space, honestly, it's not good enough, and we're all culpable. So you see, the multiple listing service can help solve all our problems. What is the multiple listing service? The multiple listing service is a platform or a tool where real estate brokers, developers, verified, credible ones can put all their inventory all in the same place. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a game changer. So I was invited to speak on the topic that talks to transformation, that talks to transparency and global best practice. Ladies and gentlemen, the MLS solves all our problems for we brokers, developers, investors, and of course government. So you will not be hearing awful conversations and speeches around, hey, Akin, half of the information that brokers are sharing are not reliable. They tell you 5 bedrooms, when you get there it's 4 bedrooms. Ladies and gentlemen, developers are relying on a lot of this data to make sound, informed judgments. Government can rely on an accurate MLS to be able to plan, do proper urban planning, and also to forecast. We have about 50 or 60 countries around the world that operate with a certified MLS. Even Ghana, they're just at the entry level. Ladies and gentlemen, everywhere I go now, I'm an advocate of having an MLS, even in Nigeria. Let me tell you what it does real quick. So for me, I have a client that is looking for a 2-bedroom apartment to lease. Guys, as a real estate broker, the idea is to shorten your transaction cycle. I prefer to close a transaction in 1 day than to take 2.5 weeks. With the MLS, imagine having, if we have 8 million realtors, brokers, real estate consultants in Lagos, imagine having 8 million verified property listings all in one toolbox. Then I will use leverage to go to the tool and say, hey, MLS, I'm looking for a nice 2-bedroom, comes with 2 cars, client's budget is 2 million, he wants it in new, and wants it brand new, he must have 2 rooms, 7 squatters. Then within a jiffy, the MLS can bring up all that are verified and available. So if there are 15, I create that laundry list and send it to the client. They are verified, they are within the budget, all the characteristics and information that the client has given me makes our job a whole lot easier. Realtors, agents, brokers, real estate consultants in the room, it will increase the number of transactions we can do. Developers will use that data to find out. They can go historical. Hey, MLS, how many 2-bedrooms were sold and for what price point? So developers also have to rely on me. I give them one information, then they go to some other real estate consultant that gives them another. Because proper planning will prevent us from building to the wrong demographic. So that's what speaks to. Of course, I will speak to it more during the panel session. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Please can we put hands together for Mr. Akin Opatola? Please, let's do that better. We can do better. Please, you can see now. We're just going to go into the, yes, do we have a coach around? Okay, please, can them, okay. Okay. Wow. So right about now, I'm going to also bring forward our first speaker in person of the chief coach himself, Mr. Bikui Manuel. Please, can we celebrate him as he comes up here, please? Please put your hands together and celebrate him. Thank you. Please, just you can do here. Can we get the microphones? Thank you. Okay. All right. Once again, it's a pleasure. My name is Lucas Fawade, and I'm a partner with Opatola and Company, where we do real estate transactions, of course, on a different value chain of the curve. And we've had a wonderful presentation from Chief Coach and also from Mr. Akin Opatola. So right about now, we just want to have some conversations with regards to with regards to the conversations that we've had. He's talked to us about driving. He talked to us about closing deals in high inflation economy. And honestly, we all know what the inflations are now. And most of the times, the question I ask myself is, are people still buying? Are people still? But the truth is, yeah, people are still doing so. So we can see that from the presentation we've had today in terms of the developers have talked about the units they are doing here and there and all that. But we can't rule out the fact that there's inflation. The prof also spoke to the fact that while we need to bring this thing down, he talked very strongly about the need to bring the cost of construction really down as to why we can have some of those things crashed. And also, Mr. Akin Opatola talked about driving transformation very short, very briefly. And so right now, we're going to take it a little bit further with regards to some of the things you've done in the industry, and I'm going to ask some free questions. And if anybody has one or two questions, you can probably ask. Then we'll just take it from there. So let me start with our first speaker, and my first question will be to you that yes, there is inflation, and you've talked about it, and you've talked about why we need to close sales and all of that. So if I'm going to ask you, yes, inflation is rising, the purchasing power is shrinking. Now, yet some firms are also closing deals. Some people are closing deals. Some people are selling. So the question is now going to be, what are they doing differently? Are we not in this same economy? What are they doing differently to ensure that they close deals? Yes, we emphasize in the future, if you taught every area with what you can do. But why are other people closing deals and maybe others are not closing? And the excuses that we do have is inflation and inflation.
All right, thank you. Question. Yeah, so, see, top closers, they are not afraid of inflation. Rather, they outsell it. And I made mention of 4 things you need to do when no one is buying. When inflation is high, you sell. You sell. These 4 things falls under the sell. XELL. You steal smartly. What are they doing? Look at them closer. What are the people that are selling within the real estate space, even in high inflation economy? What are they doing? Study them, then copy what they are doing and replicate the same thing. I won't lie to you. There's inflation, but real estate is still selling. And we heard here it when Professor was saying that real estate is not topping the chart of one of the sectors that is driving Nigeria economy. So it is not ghosts that are buying these properties, they are people. And it's people that are selling this thing. So you need to copy what they are doing, educate your client. You need to come up with a lot of content because the clients, they are well informed now because of the advent of the social media. Social media is now the culture. So clients are well informed, they have access to their phone, they have access to the internet. So you need to do a lot of education. You need to come up with a lot of content to talk around the issues revolving around real estate and see how you can better position it. If you could do this, then you will sell.
All right, thank you very much. Let me come to you, Mr. Akin Opatola. You spoke strongly with regards, and I think whilst
whilst the Prof was giving some form of data earlier on, of course not shocked, but it scares you when you talked about in 2050, for example, the population growth of Nigeria will be as much as 450 million if we're not careful. So the question to you will now be, in terms of, we're talking about multiple listing, but before we go into the issue of multiple listing, I want to bring you back to ask the question with regards to transparency and how it impacts on investors' confidence. I know you've traveled, you do a lot of things with FIABCI here and there and all that, and you meet all of those guys. So how does transparency, from your own point of view, directly impact investors' confidence and long-term capital attraction, right? Don't forget, developers are here, and you talk about multiple listing and all that. So how does that happen?
Awesome, thank you very much, Sandro. So real quick, ladies and gentlemen, transparency is the lifeblood of real estate. Transparency and trust are one and the same thing. You see, it is extremely difficult now to get transactions closed. One of the reasons is because of lack of trust. The word agent has been so bastardized even in Nigeria. As you hear this person is an agent, then they're already looking at you with some form of disdain. And that's where the education comes in. You have to be knowledgeable, you have to be well branded in terms of the way you look, very, very key. So you see, foreign investors, and let me give you and share some statistics. So 2024, about maybe $100 billion foreign direct investment came into Africa. Close to half of that went to Egypt. You see, foreign funds are very deliberate. They will look at, do you have high quality real estate mega projects? Do you have clarity? Do you have transparency? They look at all those things. Backtrack to last year, 2025. Roughly about half of that, maybe about $48 billion FDI came into Africa. Nigeria struggled to achieve 5% of those funds, while Egypt again was commanding close to 18 to 19%. Our market here in Nigeria is very opaque. We are not transparent. If we want to begin to attract and be competitive in the global flow of funds, then we need to do things like what the MLS, have data, have information, be transparent. There's something called the GLL, Jones-Lang-LaSalle Transparency Index, that keeps tracking countries around the world. And that is why you see that majority of the global funds are being attracted to countries like Singapore, as Prof has mentioned, the UK, the United States. Countries that are very, very open in terms of data sharing. These investors need to know, because they have to also justify why those funds are coming to Nigeria, Africa. So, how many 2 bedrooms are being built? How many 5 bedrooms? What is the total number of offtake? What is the demand drivers? Even though, yes, we know we have the population here. So things like that usually help in terms of transparency and trust. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Akin. Let me come back to the chief coach itself. And this is practical, and based from where you sit, and most of the transactions that are done in terms of relating with people who are deals that have been closed. And you said something about market intelligence earlier on. And I've actually been in that space where people tell you, people just want to come into the sector and feel that you just make the money, you just sell and make the money, not want to go through the processes and all that. Now, when a prospect, for example, that you're marketing, that you want to sell to, is telling you that he's thinking about it, what do you think is going on in the mind of such people, even after you have done all of your homework? Because I'm sure you see a lot of your staff, markets, but all that matters is closing these deals, right? And most of the times they come back with this feedback. They said the man is still thinking about it. When an investor or when a would-be buyer mention that he's thinking about a particular project to buy into, what what do you think is going on in their mind, based on where you sit and your professional standpoint?
All right, thank you. When you get that objection from clients, you need to ask. Now you need to now start also thinking of asking some deeper questions, because it's only when you ask questions you will be able to know them. You'll be able to know what they are thinking. What is it thinking about? Before you get to that stage, when you're prospecting, you know, part of the three pillars of sales excellence I made mention, aside the market intelligence, you understanding the product, you also need to understand the sales process. The process of attracting the client, then till close. So at the initial stage, what are the questions that you can ask? Do you understand the reason why this client is buying this property? Do you understand the purpose why they are buying this property? Do you even understand the client itself? Have they gotten their fingers burnt before? You know, have they lose money before? You know, you need to like ask deeper questions to be able to understand their mind. It is when you understand their mind, then you will be able to, by the time they now start telling you, I'm still thinking about it. From the knowledge of what you've had with them before, you should be able to like picture or in your mind that what could be running through the mind of this person. Is he based on the level of trust, just like Mr. Akin said, like probably maybe he has lost money before? Is it from the angle of he needs to speak to his wife? You know, we get that, you know, let me talk to my wife about it. Is it probably maybe there's somebody else that makes decisions aside him. Maybe it's not the final decision maker, you know, but you'll be able to understand all of this if you ask the right question and ask the right question.
Thank you very much. Let me quickly bring up, I think one of our panelists is around, but she could also join us on there, just to have, we will do well to have Akin here. Please let's welcome Confidence, Achodo. Please put your hands together. Please you can come. Yes, Confidence, you're welcome. Alright, so just probably take a seat and please let's have the microphone. You're welcome. Okay, thank you. Alright, so I'll allow you to take a breather. Let me come back to Mr. Akin. I'm going to ask a few questions, come back to you, but let me start so we can allow you to just, you know, rest of it. So, Mr. Akin, I want to ask, you've talked about investors' confidence, how people perceive, and I also think you talked about Egypt, and that data is very scary actually. But let me also come back to you and ask this other question with regards to global best practices. Now, from your standpoint, from the things that you've done, now we're talking about MLS, right? So what one thing, when people are going to be looking at this, because it's a major play for us if we're able to do it. So what global best practices do Nigerian developers now most need urgently for them to adopt for us to come to this MLS stuff?
Okay,
Best practices that you think of.
Okay, so I think first things first, maybe it's harmonization. The market is very, very soft. Everybody wants to be seen to be doing and closing deals. It needs to make ends meet. But we need to get the right information. I've practiced real estate in a few countries, and it's not the way it's done here. You see, with the MLS, or even something similar to the MLS, you see, so I belong to about 140 different property WhatsApp groups. Ladies and gentlemen, half of the information listed there are not correct. From mandate, no, second to mandate, no, 3 steps to the mandate, and you keep on passing wrong, inaccurate information. Don't forget, we don't work in silos. So I'm looking for an office block. You're passing wrong information to me. What of these expatriates? What of these foreign clients? You see, and that is why transparency and trust can be an amazing business plan for any one of you that wants to stand out. You don't need to have a big office, you don't need to have multiple staff. You just need to plan and say, look, I will operate in this market differently. people will now begin to look for you and your business. You see, one thing that I do, and you touched on it regarding global best practice, is you need to be known for giving accurate information and data. Then other agents, your colleagues, will gravitate towards you. You do more transactions. Developers having mighty projects too will also move towards your direction. And I tell people that, look, real estate products, there are two things. Number one, when you are marketing your product, so the product is tangible. So you're looking at the features, 5 bedrooms, 6 bedrooms, does it have swimming pool, gym, are all rooms and suites, marble floors, and things like that, the location. But there's also the intangible aspect that speaks to yourself, and those things you cannot really touch. So people will rather do a quick dive and Google your name or drop your name on AI and say, is this the kind of realtor, real estate consultants that I can do business and trust? Thank you.
All right, let's come to confidence. I mean, it's good to have you around. And so let me just quickly ask this question, because you actually meant to speak to us about, irresistible offers with regards to, how you can make 10 times sales, right? And I know that's what people want to hear. You want to hear, just sell 10 properties today, do this and all that. But beyond all of those, I am of the opinion personally, I stand to be corrected, that in this part of the world, we plan for the people, we don't plan with the people. So you can plan for people and just build, you just think in your mind they need 2 bedrooms, and just build, and think they buy. But I think that we don't do right by not planning with the people. So if I may ask you, what makes a real estate offer irresistible beyond discounts? Because discount is what you use after all. But from your own part, beyond giving or offering discounts to people, what makes a real estate offer something irresistible?
Thank you very much. It's good to be here. My apologies for coming late. First of all, you are the product. And I think I can't overemphasize that enough. You are the product. When I came into real estate, if you would notice something about me, I have stayed consistent. Consistent in delivery, consistent in everything. Now, consistent does not mean I am stagnant. I am constantly evolving, but I am evolving excellently. Meaning what I did yesterday, I don't want to do it again. So I am in constant competition with myself. How can I be 10 times better than how I was yesterday? So before you start marketing anything, you are first the product. You need to evaluate yourself. With the way you are, would you buy from you? The moment you are able to put all of these things, answer these questions, trust me, your answers begin to align. Now for me, when I realized, and the truth is, one thing most agents and majority, everyone is looking for magic. You're looking for, you do this and you get this. But the sad thing about real estate is 1 + 1 is not 2. Sometimes 1 + 1 may be 0. You may do everything right. But let me tell you something, when you consistently do things right, someday you would get noticed. That is the thing. So for real estate, what I did, I'm almost 10 years in real estate. Most people just got to know me recently. It's not because I haven't been grinding or I haven't been digging and sowing. It's because I have just been doing what I have to do, and someday it started clicking, right? For you to 10x your sales this year, it is very, very possible. Right now, goals don't scare me anymore. I scare goals because I create crazy goals for myself, and I have seen myself exceed all my goals every year. How did I do that? First of all, I have to understand the fact that, like I said before, I am the product. The moment you understand that you are the product you want to now sell will now align. I hear people say confidence. I've seen this product before. I didn't like it, but when I saw you market it, I understood better. I liked it. People say confidence, I was not planning to buy a property. But when I saw this property, I liked it. Why? Because you are seeing a part of me in that product. I have been able, in fact, I've heard developers say, I never knew my product would be like this until you came on the product. So if there is anything I need you to leave or take home, is to know that you are the product. The moment you look yourself in the mirror and say, I am the product, you now begin to ask yourself, okay, what am I supposed to do to look more like the product I want to sell? Thank you.
Wow, isn't that wonderful? Please put your hands together. Now, let me a follow-up question for you. Yes. Whilst I take that follow-up question, I come back to the last round of the question that we just, again, from your experience in the last 10 years, what do you see from developers' points of view now? What mistakes do you think developers make in packaging their products? From where you stand, developers now, what mistakes have you seen over the past 10 years in packaging their product and how it affects the sales of those products?
You said it earlier that developers build for themselves. There is no concrete data to know what exactly people want or what they need. And so I'm able to sell because I listen. I closed a transaction 2 days ago. This is a client who called me from Canada. We spoke. Look, I could have closed as many transactions with this client as possible. And I can tell you that this client is stuck with me. I listened to what they wanted. What she wanted. In fact, she flew in later, we sat down. We're going to get something else, beautiful, expensive, good. I would have made so much money. But when I listened to her, I said, look, this would not align with what you want to do. And 2 days ago, I went to see a property, fantastic. I just talked about the client. I said, this is it for you. Immediately that night, I reached out. At night, I was still at the site till like 8 p.m. I did a video right there. I said, see, I stepped in here, this aligns with your vision. Immediately, I'm not talking about days, within hours, this client bought the property. Trust. They had gotten to a point where they know that whatever they wrote it there, confidence, we trust you. They got to a point where they knew that I got their back. I have their back. This would not have happened if I was after, buy this one, you will get this one, buy this one. I listen. And so these are the things I do with my clients that most developers don't do. And I can say categorically, maybe because you are not the one interfacing with the clients and all of that, I believe there are ways to create forums whereby you really understand the pain points of these people, what they want. And now, because at the end of the day, you're not building for yourself. So one thing, even not just in real estate, in business, a lot of people, you analyze something, it looks fantastic, the idea is brilliant, everything checks, you put it out in the market, nobody buys it, nobody likes it. And then that is when you forget that, you realize that, oh, I am just living in my fantasy. I am not building something for people. So you said it all. Most developers are not building for people. And I've seen it happen. There is no ingenuity. Very minimal ingenuity. Everybody is doing the same thing, doing the same. That's why when one person comes and says, you're going to do this one differently, it blows. And guess what? Everybody begins to copy that pattern. There is no ingenuity.
All right, thank you. So let's go to the last of the question. I'm going to come to Coach Akin. So this question is good because we can't talk about selling without talking about your models, right? Models that appeals to people. So I would like to ask, from your experience in the markets, what sales structure or payment models have you seen work best when purchasing power is unstable? Now, we talked about inflation earlier on and the need for people to, regardless of inflation, people can still buy, right? But from where you stand, what models have you seen work, even when the structure, when people don't have the financial capacity to proceed with buying?
It's simple. It's a mortgage system. Similar to it is the installment payment plan that we do have and some of these properties that we saw. But when you have proper mortgage system that works, your sales multiplies. Clients, they want to buy property, they want to invest in this. But what is limiting them is the availability of to pay out rent. But when you can introduce to them a flexible payment system, a mortgage system that allows them to drop initial payment, then spread over time. Then you will be able to record more sales than you do when you just put it out on an actual payment basis. Mortgage system, if the government can get it, take for instance, recently the ESV model that was introduced, I can tell you that with that, and some of our partners that embrace the ESV system, the record of sales that they recorded, I think this was within October, November, December period. The numbers of sales that they recorded is more than what they have paid from January to April. So if you have a good mortgage system that works, believe me, people will be able to invest in it. Developers will be able to invest. Helping government in reducing the housing levels.
Thank you very much. Please let's put our hands together. Two more questions and I'm here. And that question will go all the way to Mr. Akin, Opatola, and the last one to confidence. Mr. Akin, sometimes I'm still coming back to this issue of transparency, because I know sometimes last year we brought in people from all over the world to Nigeria with regards to real estate. So I want to ask, how can transparency become a competitive advantage instead of just a compliance requirement? Let me explain further. Sometime last year, I think I was in the Security Exchange Commission compliance meeting. I mean, it was a 2 days compliance meeting about corporate governance and all that. And we can't overemphasize on the need for corporate governance. And probably the reason why we're not seeing more of investment coming to Nigeria. A lot are coming though, but we can actually do a lot more, right? So the question of this transparency, we still have to go back to it. So the question is, how can transparency become a competitive advantage to us? And I speak on this based on you bringing in people into Nigeria for the World Conference last year.
Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, there's something called diaspora dollar. Confidence touched on it, and so for me, I am focused on diaspora dollar. As at last year, 2025, upwards of $20 billion was remitted by Nigerians outside the country. There are about 4 million Nigerians, white collar, doing amazingly well in the UK. Government statistics has about 14 million Nigerians outside. They're sending money to Nigerians for one thing or the other, building house, giving money to mama, things like that. When you say the economy is tough and we're looking for blue ocean areas, for me, that is one area that I'm looking at. The association I belong to gives an amazing platform to that. What Sanjo mentioned. So last year, we had the opportunity to host the World Real Estate Congress here. My association is called FIABCI. We've never had the opportunity to host it. We've been in Nigeria for about 53 years. So we brought in about 175 expatriates from around the world. It was super, one whole week event. Some of the highlights of it, and this speaks to transparency in our market. Of course, we took a few of them to meet with the Lagos State government and a few of the ministers that attended the event.